flowers and stuff are kind of a dungeon. So yeah, this is better.
Yeah, Dawn's looks nice and bright in there.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you ladies turning your cameras on. Thank you.
Oh, Dawn says inner basement, but lots of lights.
Hey, that works.
I figured everybody else was doing it, so I guess I could do it too.
Yes. Thanks, Josie.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Josie has a greenhouse also in her yard.
Yeah, well, I've been seeing all your posts. Yeah, Josie, you're getting excited.
Yeah, I am. I've got lots of things growing. This is my first time starting some newer things inside. And
Okay.
I just planted a couple things out in my greenhouse the other day, doing a little bit of experimenting, like just
Yeah.
planted some spinach and some radishes and some cilantro,
Oh, that's
because
exciting.
they're all kind of like cold, like hardier
Yeah.
Yeah.
plants. So my greenhouse has been like a nice temperature during the day. It's just at night. But anyways, I like to
Yeah.
experiment, try a couple new things here and there.
Yeah. I always do that every year too. Just a few more things to experiment, see if it works out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of how you learn to garden. That's how I
Mhm.
learned. It's just,
Mhm.
yeah.
Do you follow Shifting Roots?
I do, yeah.
She's got the whole cold
And
garden.
she's
I
doing
know, I'm
so
like,
many cool things, and she's like putting, I don't know, it's so cool what she's doing.
Did you say Shifting Roots? I'm going to have to check this
Yeah.
out.
And
yeah,
she's
Okay.
now working with West Coast Seeds and created this garden kit
Mm.
where you can just buy this one package and have a wildflower garden. Anyways,
Oh,
but she's working
okay.
with them. So anyways, off
Perfect.
topic. Here we go.
Off topic. Here we go.
Talk
We're
about flowers
1:30,
all
so we'll
day.
get. Hey, that's what this is all about. So anyway, we'll get started. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Jenny Glessman and I'm with the Sage Hill Community Futures Office in Bruno. We also have the contract for the IBDS, Indigenous Business Development Services, and that's what allows us to bring all of these sessions. And today we're starting off our new year in April. And so we're taking we're doing a couple little things a little different. Today we're just going to have a chat. We've got Megan joining us. So for those that don't know about Community Futures, there's 13 offices across the province. The province is split into 13 regions. We are completely rural, so we don't take in the cities of Saskatoon and Regina. And we offer loans, advice, and support to small business owners, whether you're starting, growing, maybe selling, expanding. We can help in all those different areas. And one of the things we do is workshops. And we're excited to have Megan here today. But I'm going to turn it over to Jessica. Jessica works with us with the IBDS, and she's going to kind of lead us through today. And I'm going to be the one watching the chat. I think as we're going today, feel free to put your hand up, put it in the chat. We're going to if you've got questions as we go, we want to keep this as informal as possible. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jenny. So before we get started, I just want to read a land acknowledgement. So as we gather here today, we just want to acknowledge that, oh my goodness, that we're coming to you. Holy jumping. I know this thing off by heart and all of a sudden they get all mixed up. Oh my word. As we gather here today, we acknowledge that oh my goodness gracious.
I don't even have my copy in front of me.
You can do it. You can
I know.
You can do it.
It's just so funny as we
gather here on Treaty 6
territory, homeland of the Métis. We pay our respects to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. And I apologize. I've said it so many times, and for whatever reason, I just completely drew a blank. So today we are here with Megan. Megan is the owner, creator, founder of Pash Collective. And Megan and I met because she was working with the Prince Albert office with their side hustle program. And so we met in that way. Later on, had Megan come to my house because she does do some different home services by coming and helping me reclaim the beauty of some of the spaces in my house. And And then I have purchased some blue and white pumpkins from her. And I have gone to many markets and seen her face. So Megan is an artist, a creative person. One day I will make it to PA to her yoga. And I'm just really excited to have her here. We're both from Calgary. We both have family ties in Trail, BC. So we have some funny little quirky things that are similar. And so we've really enjoyed each other's company. And so I think this is just going to be a great session today about the value of authentic business relationships, because Megan and I have absolutely created an authentic business relationship with one another. And so it's very nice to just be able to share this with other people, because as you all know, and Megan will touch on this, but as you're growing your business, if you can just become friends with one extra person, it is crazy how wild it just spreads. And, you know, because Megan and I have, you know, met, we've also kind of connected with other people, and now Josie's in the mix. And, you know, it's wild how you just find similar interests and then similar people with who are like-minded. So with that all being said, welcome today, Megan.
Thank you. Yes.
So the purpose of today is we're going to just do a little bit more informal. We're doing a little bit more of we're sitting around the coffee table and we're just having a conversation, just so we can share some of her life and work experiences, and hopefully you will walk away with something else that you can add to your life, into your business. So, you know, Megan, maybe first off, we could just hear about what you're doing. What is this? What is
Yes.
happening with you?
Yes, I would love that. Okay, I do see, at first I said I didn't see any names, I know, but I do now. And
Oh,
wing.
there we go. Muted.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, Pash Collective. So I was saying, some of you weren't quite on yet, but this is my 8-year anniversary of entrepreneurship. And it started with teaching yoga. So I was working in the oil field in northern Alberta, fell in love with a farmer. He was also working up there. And I was like, okay, well, come check it out and see what happens. And I was able to quit that job, come here and try all things that I was passionate about. And it's kind of been a wild ride over the last 8 years. So currently right now, Pash Collective, the reason for that name is because I am a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I have my hands dabbling into lots of different avenues. So yoga is a big one that's always been there over the last 8 years, as well as growing. The growing has changed from selling veggie bags to now the pumpkins are my biggest, my favorite thing to do is the pumpkins. And they've been spread out all over, drops off in Roster and Saskatoon and over back into Calgary as well. And then flowers and selling in markets, as well as pottery, as I see one name on there that's reminding me that I always forget to mention the pottery aspect. And so there's all these avenues. I have a service-based with the yoga, and then product-based with the artisan part of Pash Collective. And so that's kind of what it is now. I leave it open to be ever evolving. I'm always wanting to meet new people, try new things. And as I'm saying that, I one day I will be more of an organizer. I had to take that off my website because I realized I had too many things on the go and I needed to bring it back in. I still do it for friends, family, but I needed to just hone myself back in a little bit because things got a little out there. Yeah. So that's
fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great that you have that flexibility within your business and that you're enjoying it and you have something for every season. You forgot to mention the clothing.
Oh my God.
Which is so beautiful.
Yes.
So
yes, that's the cyanotype sunprint clothing, which is also, so basically everything I do, well, yoga a little different, but all my products are based out of the garden. So I have pressed flowers as well as dried flowers, but the pressed ones I do on this cyanotype sunprint. So I use the pressed flowers in the sun to make these wearable art pieces as well.
Which are beautiful. On the denim, especially. So yeah, so fun. So maybe we'll just dive right into kind of the topic about create the value of authentic business relationships. So maybe you could talk to us a little bit about an example of meaningful business relationships that opened unexpected doors for you.
Yes. Okay. So when I was sitting with this and writing, and Jessica had brought this topic to me, and I was like, okay, let me sit with that for a little bit. I like to digest things. And there was 4 relationships that really popped up into mind for me that have given different things to the business. And one of them was you, Jessica. So we've kind of already told that story. So I'll focus on these 3 different ones. So I came into the yoga world not ever running a business, but when you become a yoga instructor, you have to figure out also how to be a business owner. I'm sure I see artisans on here today. And so that's a huge piece. You have this passion, and now what? And so you just have to start and build those relationships as well. And so one of them was, some of you might know Des. She owns a spin studio in Prince Albert. And I just remember watching her energy right from the beginning. And I do take little notes of things. And I said to myself, okay, whatever she's doing, I'm going to join in. Because I was brand new to the city, didn't know anybody. I guess that's one aspect I wanted to touch base. When I started entrepreneurship, I was in a brand new small town on the prairies, and I knew my partner and his family, and that was it. So every relationship I've made over the last years has sort of organically grown through the businesses in a way. So Des, you found her. I said, whatever she's doing, I'm going to do. She invited me to do a day workshop right at the beginning. We did that. It was wonderful. It morphed into me teaching yin classes at her spin studio. And then I hadn't done anything for a few years, but just last year we did another workshop together where I got to be part of it. So she's been kind of in and out the last 8 years. She's really involved in Prince Albert Community Futures as well. So it's really cool to see how we can build those small businesses together. Another one, which is another aspect. So those are, paralleling businesses starting together. I have a yogi, Wilna, who right away was at all my yoga classes. And she, what little background is, there was a yoga studio in Prince Albert. It closed down. I was teaching there. I had nowhere to teach at that point. And so I was like, I guess I start a yoga studio, not meaning to open a brick and mortar business at this point. And she was like, I want this to happen. We need this in the community. And she made a logo for me. She made branding, photo shoot, and a website all within, I think, a weekend. And I traded for that yoga classes. And so that was the beginning of Pash Yoga. So that's where Pash originated from, Pash Yoga. And so after that, we built this beautiful friendship. She is an artist. She was hosting a 2-day retreat, asked if I would be the yoga instructor. So I got to do my first workshops with her, seeing her as an artisan. At this point, I was not calling myself an artisan. So I was teaching the yoga. And then full circle again. So that was probably about 5 years ago. The yoga instructors that I'm working with now, we did a paint night with Wilna. And she goes, I think that we need to do workshops again. And I said, yes, I would love that. I want to bring that all together. And so I said, actually, I have this idea in my head that needs to come out. And so on May 3rd, I'm hosting a day retreat in Birch Hills, and Wilna is one of the participants. I've hired her to come do her paint class. So it's this friendship. You see the ebbs and flows of those relationships that you can build, and you just don't know what you're going to get from them. Yes. Okay. I have one more exciting one to share. So the third one that really hit home is more just people that have bought from me over the years. So your clientele, whatever you're wanting to call them. And there's 2 ladies that come into mind, and any yoga retreat I put on or day or host event, they're signing up. One of them bought my very first veggie bag that I was selling I think it was 8 summers ago. And then I did take a break from entrepreneurship for a little while. And when I kind of was dabbling back in it about 1.5 years ago, I remember meeting her in the parking lot because she bought some flowers, and she goes, okay, so whatever you make next, sign me up for 2. She didn't know what I was making. So I was like, okay, Anna, I will, yes. And so she's just like been supporting me, and we might not see each other for a couple years, but then we have these connections in the community, and she shares all my stuff and my posts and stuff. So those are just collectors or clientele of yours that also follow along. So those are sort of three avenues of building these relationships that have been 8 years long now. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's great. And isn't it so nice when you can connect with people and support each other on this journey? And it's like, it's been, like you said, 8 years that people have just
Mhm.
been watching you, helping you, buying from you, supporting you. Um, and I'm sure that you're doing the same for other
Yeah.
people, and other artisans in your sphere as well. Um, so in a rural setting, how do you approach networking differently than you might have, let's say, if you were a business owner in a city? Like, what have you done in that way? Because I know that you have some products in Saskatoon that you could share. And like, what happened there?
I think it's slowly just building, like almost like your spider webs going out. So you're making these little connections. A big one that's actually unexpected, and I didn't know I would be getting into the market scene and selling at markets, but that has been a huge connection. Being rural, when we're especially at that artisan piece, is you're on the farm, you're in your small town, and you only have that tight little circle around you. And so I think it's about getting out into the community and into those bigger, it doesn't need to be bigger centers, but just getting yourself out there more, and making connections. And so the markets honestly is how I've made a lot of my connections, selling at them. Interesting. If back to that last question, if I was going to add one more thing about some connections and relationships that were unexpected, was selling at the markets, the community that I've built there. And so I do this one thing now. I might not have done it at the beginning, Allison, but now that I'm more comfortable in selling at markets, I take my business card once we're done setting up and I pass it out to the people around me. And I say, we're all stressed out, we're all busy. I wanted to say hi, my name's Megan. You're going to forget it. Here's my business card, so you'll remember it when you need to come ask me to go to the washroom. And so I've built a lot of, because we're all there doing the same thing, hustling and all that. And so the connections I've made there, interesting, it's the connections that I've made when I wasn't busy and my sales were down, because maybe it wasn't as busy of a market, that I've made more friendships there. And so I have these connections. And actually, as I'm looking at myself, these earrings I traded for pumpkins. This shirt I bought from a vendor. And so um, it's so neat, that trading and that connection. And now we're reaching out. I know Allison and I have sent each other like, oh, have you been to this market, or have you checked out this one? And I saw another gal I was stressed out about getting out of one market and getting to another really big opportunity for myself, and asked for like help from these people that I've just met, and because they're going through the same thing as you. So that is how I feel like now I'm making that broader range of connections, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just a case of, like you said, asking for help and introducing yourself. And if
Yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
to the same place, why not? You have a trailer, I need some more room for my pumpkins, like let's share the space.
Yes,
And
definitely.
and I think it's great because maybe there's other people who would like to ask, but they're scared to. But seeing you, you're probably encouraging people and you don't even realize that you're encouraging them to maybe ask for, help or to connect with somebody in the future. So let's see. If we So we've kind of talked about some simple ways that people can start making some meaningful business connections. Do you have any other tips for somebody who is maybe feeling isolated and needing to reach out?
Yeah, well, even when you were saying that last comment of, people seeing that and it helping them get out of their comfort zone, it's a reminder to everybody, but I at my heart am a shy shy person who is afraid of public speaking. So sure, this isn't public speaking, you're not right in front of me, but you are right in front of me. And it's just that encouragement that you can do it. I have it written down here. We're all awkward. We're all feeling uncomfortable. We're wiggling in our skin, but you just have to do it. And the more you do it, it becomes second nature to you. And like
Mhm.
when I say stage fright, I mean at my high school
Mm.
graduation, they forced me to speak in front of the crowd, and I started to speak, and I had to run through the couple hundred people to the back of the room crying to leave the
Oh
situation.
no.
So people say, "Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think you had stage fright." Okay, I also would take zeros in university because I wouldn't do the presentation. So like we've come
Oh.
a long way.
Mhm.
Um,
Good for
so
you.
if you're feeling like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do that. It's awkward." It's just we're all in that same boat. And the more connections you make, you have these, say, friends at my world is a lot of markets right now. So you have these friends in the markets. Um, I have some challenges for everybody here. So one thing, so I'll touch on that now to answer your question, is go to the stores, go check out the shops in your town, introduce yourself, start conversations, and just even, sometimes their style might not be your style, but you can buy something as a gift for somebody, and then you get to pass on that little piece of their small business to somebody else. I think that's really important. I find that I do that. I like to do that to build those connections and just support them in ways that I can. Um, the world of social media is a huge one. I know sometimes we think we're on our phone too much, but as business owners, that is part of our business, is that we have to find that balance. So one challenge I like to do is, if I'm feeling a little isolated, is just going through and trying to find liking different small businesses in, for me, Prince Albert, Birch Hills, but maybe out to Saskatoon and all the small towns. So follow some new uh, businesses, and then even just connecting with, simply liking is a start, liking some photos or commenting about different events, and even cheering each other on. I think that's a great one. Like just a simple looks awesome. Can't wait to hear more. It, when people do that for me, I'm like, oh, wow, that's so nice. Like any little comment. And so I'm like, wow, they would be feeling the same way as I'm feeling. So it could feel awkward again at first, but just getting out of your comfort zone, I think would be, but yeah, social media, it's an easier way to kind of dabble in to that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I follow so many different artisans, and you forget that it could just it means the world, just these random comments, just working hard at your craft, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, "Oh, it's beautiful." You're like, yes, I'm doing this for purpose. There is a reason here. And um
Yeah.
I think that even when I had reached out to you and said, well, could you bring some pumpkins to Rostern? And then you said, well, I'm actually already coming there. Josie, I think, had already reached out, and some other people. It's like, perfect. So I think it's amazing, right? You've
Hmm.
created
Well,
these relationships.
yeah, and those ones I think is I'm also willing to do a lot. I
Mm.
think you were and Josie reached out. I said, yeah, if you can get one more, three, that makes it worth it. I'll deliver them to your door. And I did it with a group in Saskatoon. I said, if you get 5 people from Saskatoon, I'll deliver them there. So it's like thinking outside the box, and then you make
Hmm.
those connections and relationships as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
One thing I forgot to say that's really good if you're a new business is doing, and I know we see a lot of giveaways, but you can find your people with them, but doing a giveaway with 3 other business owners, maybe that you're similar with, or maybe you're connected, um, where you live close together, or it could be a broader thing. Like if it's, I've never done this, but if it was for pumpkin growers all over Saskatchewan versus maybe some of the little other artisans in PA I've done them with. So that's a really great way to lean into each other's markets and followers as well. And people win things. So yeah.
Now, in terms of like platforms, which platform do you find that you're getting more response rates like
Um,
now?
I mostly am on Instagram and Facebook. I just haven't got into the world of yeah, or broadened out of that because that feels doable for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I know I hear the pumpkins on TikTok are pretty awesome, but I just it's like you have to figure out where your energy is gonna go, and that's
Absolutely.
so Instagram for sure, and then Facebook would be after that.
So would you have more response off of Instagram or Facebook?
I would say Instagram, but I push everything from there to Facebook because I really dislike the chat part of Facebook business.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it just yeah pushes
Yeah.
to
No,
Instagram.
that's wise. I mean, it's great. Some people, they're not sure which platform will be better for their bit, where they should be spending the most time. But I mean, if you link it, so you're
Yes.
just posting once, then it makes more sense just to have the same content on both platforms.
Yeah.
Now I'm just gonna see. Now at this point, does anyone have any questions for Megan? Anyone curious about anything more specific?
I was going to ask you a question about going to the markets because I know you've gone to like Ecom, which is a really big one just outside of Rostron here. And then there's, I think I saw you at Kith and Kin or one of those
Yeah,
larger
Smoothie.
markets.
Yeah.
Do you find that like, what do you find like your, is it mostly for exposure? Do you find you sell a lot of products or is it like a lot of just talking with people and then people start following you online or maybe it's all of the above, but I always wonder
Yeah.
at those big markets if it's worth all of the like time and energy you put into like your setup and driving there and then paying for the fees and then just the long exhausting days of doing the market.
Yeah, they are long days, definitely. Great question. Thanks, Josie. I would say, before I touch on that, I just want to hop back a little how I got back into doing market. So I had done a few when I first moved and had a few little artisan things. And then I did take a break, like I said, from entrepreneurship. Oh my God, I can't say that today. Okay. And um, and I was taking a course called Work and Worthiness to try to get back into it. What do I want to be doing and selling? And that's actually when I did around there. I did the course with Community Futures there, and the side hustle one. And so I actually got laid off from my job. So I think I put it to the universe because I found a note saying if I finish at July 2023, and then I was laid off August. And so I was like, okay, I just have to do it. I've got all these pumpkins and flowers. I'm going to try getting into markets. And actually, it was maybe the second one I got into was the one in Prince Albert called Evergreen. And I met Allison there. She's on here today. And so I just want to tell a little bit of this connection. So it was my second market. If I didn't really know what I was doing, how I wanted to be presenting, and I was just there sharing my stuff. And that market had an evening with snacks for the artisans, and we're sitting at the table, and Allison and I were beside each other, and she helped me so much by just telling me like, yeah, you're gonna maybe apply for markets and not get in, and you'll get into this and you won't get into it next year, but you'll get into this one. And having those conversations when entrepreneurship can feel so isolating sometimes when we're trying to build these businesses. And so I've really, from that moment, I leaned into connecting with all the other artisans around me at each market. And so I've gotten so much from that alone at markets, and connecting with other artisans. So that's one aspect of it. And like I was saying, the trading, all that, that's always so fun. And then you do, sometimes you make great sales and sometimes you don't, and you have to assess it year after year, which same Allison was helping me with that. We, you know, well, how'd you do at this market? How'd you do at that one? What kind of clientele come to each one of them? Um, but I also think, how many people did you connect with out? You know, yes, there's other artisans, but now your new clientele that you might get orders from. That just reminded me of a little story then. So I met a gal at a market about a year ago. She wanted a pair of the Carhartts with my sun print on it, but she didn't buy them. And she messaged me that night. She goes, if those don't sell, I'll buy them. And I said, oh, I'm on my way to Calgary for another market, and they sold. And so then she's never bought anything from me. She's been following me for the last year. I don't know her. And then I just made this vest and I did like a little bidding thing on it to see if anyone wanted it, because a couple people had asked, and she bought it. And so that's like a full year. So does it matter if you make those connections? Absolutely it does. So yeah, you have to base it on all those different factors, I think, when you're going to markets. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good answer. I was just thinking, like, sometimes those markets are so big and there's so many people there and there's so many vendors, and sometimes just as someone who goes to them,
Yeah.
they're like overwhelming and you don't know where to go. And then, but usually everybody, like, I always grab a card from the ones that I like so that when I get home, I remember to follow them all on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just curious what
Yeah.
but yeah, the connection part for sure. That's
Yeah,
a huge.
there's definitely different aspects of the markets that you can get. And sure, there's the financial piece, but it's also your mindset is, big.
Mhm.
Is, what are you can always find some positives to get out of it. And then you can decide after if you're going to do it again or shift what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's right on point. Like, I mean, the topic of this today is about authentic business relationships, and you've definitely been able to kind of walk us through why it's important. And it's important on so many levels, like you've said. It's important for your friendships, your own kind of mentoring, coaching on that level, as well as just future sales, future events, and partnering up and all those collaborative kind of efforts that you're working on, which is amazing. Now, what about, how have you been able to, let's say, take your product services from rural and then brought them into an urban center? And how did, like, for example, with your dried flower arrangements, what was the process of that and getting into a larger store?
You just do it.
Right.
Okay, so you're touching on, I think I got into Wilson's greenhouse. Is that the with
Mhm.
so my favorite thing that I make is my pumpkin bouquets. It's a pumpkin with dried flowers on top. It's just, I'm personally obsessed with them. I still have them around the house right now. You have to check the bottom to make sure they're not molding at this time of year. But and again, it's like that. You just have to try it, and if it doesn't work, you move on. But I reached out to Wilson's greenhouse. They were awesome. I said, I have this product. I don't want to step, and this is part of my being who I am. I said in my emails, like, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I know you have um, a pumpkin, like, some that they bring in pumpkins and gourds, but I have this other product that I haven't seen at your store. I'd love to chat about it. And we chatted about it, and from there they ordered last year 50 pumpkins wholesale, from pumpkin bouquets wholesale from me. And so that, I called that cold calling, cold emailing nowadays, right? So and I've also sent it to other places and it didn't go anywhere. And so that was a connection in my mind that was meant to be. And so you just try different things, reach out different ways. Yeah, so that was a big one, getting into there. And then, do I have it on my to-do list to do a few more that I haven't this year? Absolutely. Maybe this will be the day to kick my butt into action to do that, as I'm encouraging you all to try different things. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big one. And then honestly, back to the markets, um, I've gone to Calgary for a few markets and just getting different connections out there. And then you get connections and say, I'm doing a delivery. Anybody need anything? And you just
Mhm.
put yourself out there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, in that kind of we've encountered a few, Jenny and I recently, with some women who do subscription-based deliveries for flowers and for produce and things like that, which I think is brilliant.
Mhm.
You know, you have just these little route that you drop off and people are paying monthly, and there you go. I think it's great. But what else? What was I going to say? Well, it just really seems like you have been able to take advantage of this untimely layoff to make it a timely layoff in order to be able to live your life in a purposeful way, which I know that you're excited to do that. So you're able to live and kind of breathe the
Yeah.
culture values that you have for your business. Now, maybe you could touch on that a little bit. Like, how does that being able to kind of do what you want and live this life and generate an income in this way, how does it impact you holistically and your well-being and your family life and those areas?
You know, that's one of the things that I had written down a little bit as well. Well, I mentioned, and I got a lot of nods when I said entrepreneurship can be isolating and lonely at times. And you feel like you're just doing it all on your own. And I really felt that way when I had the yoga studio. And that brick and mortar um, yoga studio that took up all my time just wasn't for me. And so I've had some really sad parts of entrepreneurship as well. So I closed that studio, and I gave it to another lady to run it. And so that was a chapter that I had to almost admit defeat, but at the same time, the defeat was that it didn't work for what I wanted in life. It could have been. It was actually the most successful month that I was feeling the most depressed about it. So right, so that's gonna mess with your mind a little bit, and I just knew that wasn't for me. Now that I'm, you know, probably 5 or 6 years out from opening that space and finding that multi-passionate and knowing that giving myself permission to change and grow. And if you're here and it doesn't work, you can pivot over here, all over the place. You have to keep trying things and figure, okay, that works for me, that doesn't, it's working here for me now and not. And I also think if you want to work a 9 to 5 and do your side hustle, or then that is also wonderful if that is what works for you. And I might go back to that in 6 months from now. I leave it totally open for me to change with what is feeling right. My hope right now is, my mantra is a slow build. And so I'm not trying to solve everything and make, you know, crazy amounts of money. If I slowly build year after year, I'll have these clientele and collectors that come back, and, you know, they know where to get their pumpkins. They know where to get their flowers from. If they need a yoga class, they're gonna, you know, hire me, or they're gonna come to my class. It's always there for them. And so leaning into that slow build and is a huge part for me. And is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. You gotta, you know, there's all those little uh things, you know, society and all the other thoughts coming in, and just like coming back to yourself and what do you want. Yeah, I want to be outside, I want to be in the dirt, I want to make stuff, I want to I want to move my body. And so just coming back to that and trusting and knowing that you're, you know, you're putting in that effort to build it up. And so yeah, that's I think that's where I'm at. I'm always assessing it and
Mhm.
shifting and trying new things. Well, for example, the organizing, I had to say, okay, that needs to come off the website for now. But in a year from now, if maybe the pumpkins and flowers and yoga are all settled a little bit more, I can come back to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 I think too, like being also from Calgary, you have this mentality of more,
Mm,
right? Like it's a different
yeah.
environment in a oil and gas or just a really big center, right? And so then to transport yourself um, into a rural setting, it
Mhm.
feel for me personally also it feels good. It feels better. I feel personally more alive in a rural community than I ever did in a urban center.
Mhm.
And so I can see that in you also. And I think it's really wonderful when you can be authentic, not only to yourself, you know, but to also to all the other relationships that you have going on. And it's incredible. And I think that for everybody else too that's on this call who is drawn to that you know, artisan lifestyle, I think that Megan's story is really great in terms of like making sure you're reaching out to the other people beside you and making connections and not being afraid to reach out to stores who might one day sell your products in their stores. Is there any other kind of comments or questions before we kind of wrap up?
I will always ask questions if people don't have anything. I don't want to take over, but I was just going to say, like, about opening the brick and mortar that you did. Sometimes you just have to do that, right? Like, you have this thing in the back of your head and you keep thinking, well, maybe I just need a brick and mortar. Maybe I need a brick and mortar. And so then you do it and then you don't want to do it anymore, but then now it's out of your mind and you don't have to think about it anymore and it's just gone,
That's
you know?
yeah. How do you know unless you try it and it doesn't work, or that's a really yeah. And when you maybe are beating yourself up a little bit because you're like, oh
Mhm.
wow, that was a lot of effort for, you know.
It's true. And like there forever, I wanted to open a coffee shop in our small town here in Rostern. And I was going to do it. I've been talking about this since like high school. When I went to business school, I did my business plan on making a coffee shop in Rostern. And then it wasn't until a couple of years ago, I helped the Station Arts Center open up a coffee shop. And then I was like, okay, I did it. I helped them get this started. And now I don't want to do it. I know it's not for me. I don't want to run a full coffee shop, you know, but just now I don't ever think about it. It's not like weighing me down in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I'm just going to say there was a comment, and I think this is a good comment. This is from Dawn. Speaking of connecting, I would love if everyone here could drop their Insta or website or Facebook in, and then we can start, you know, following people, which would be, I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yes, and that's awesome. The connect all those little connections. Well, you know, yeah.
It's that connecting, you know, and we talk about that here. I'm going to use an example, and some of you may have heard this before. My husband and I own the lumber yard here in Bruno, and when we first came, I had this idea of doing Christmas on Main. I wanted to decorate the park, and I had this. All I wanted to do was a Christmas tree, and we sat down and we brainstormed how many businesses were in our community. When we made that list, I think there was 40 or 50 businesses which were home based or street front. You know, it just blew me away, and how we connected with one another. And now we've created this park that's like the whole North Pole. Everybody's given some money and their time, but it was just by us sitting down and making that list, figuring out who was out there. Some of them we didn't even realize they were selling something from their home, but we connected and found out who they all were. And now we've created this Christmas on Main. But you know,
And
it's just how an idea started.
how big is Bruno? Like it's not a
600 people.
that's awesome.
But when I say area, like a lot of these, like we have somebody that is a tire shop off their farm. We have somebody that's another one that I think they do rentals of trailers off their farm. And like another one, they're a seed, they're farmers, but they sell certified seed off the farm. And when we reached out to them, one's a welder, he does all kinds of things. And soon everybody was like, oh, I'll do this. I'll donate that, you know. And it was just till we made that list and realized how many were out there. It was incredible. But it was all that connection, building those relationships.
I have something to say.
Yeah.
I live in Bradwell, which is just, you know, there's like 180 people here.
Yeah.
And I've been doing my art for 21 years and nobody in my town knew what I did. They knew who I was, doesn't matter if I told them or not, nobody remembers or knows. Yeah, anyways. I had an open house a couple years ago and people from the town came and they're like, what in the world? I had no idea that's what you did. I'm like, I'm at home every single day. What do you think I'm doing at my house? So anyways, having an open house in your small community, sending out just in your town, you know, Facebook groups or whatever, that's a great way of connecting. So that's all I have.
Love that.
I absolutely love that idea of an open house. Like if you're an artist, I mean, it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. I don't really want everybody to come to my house, but I mean, like if you had, you know, a farm or a yard or a store or anything like that, I think it's amazing. It's a brilliant idea. An artist walk.
But
Yeah.
you know
And I
what?
know Dawn
Like,
just,
oh no, go ahead.
I just see Dawn had put a comment in the thing that says, we have a women's owned business group that they've just started in Bruno, and there's
Oh,
over 25 ladies in the group, from our town of 600. And they're all women-based businesses, home-based businesses. Some are artists, some are, you know, selling, you know, it might be selling, I think one sells Zaya, one girl makes beaded jewelry from home. So yeah, it's a
mhm.
huge group. I'm on there, I have my greenhouse. So yeah, there's a
Mm.
whole group of that, you know, getting together like-minded, and lots of us didn't know who some of them were and what they did. So it's very interesting just learning from one another as well.
Mhm. Mhm. What were you going to say, Josie?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, talking about authentic business relationships and how you were saying, oh, I don't really want to have everyone to my home. But then, you know, you talk about the idea of like having a retreat in your space. And sometimes it's not until you invite people into your space that really allows you to have the authentic relationship with others because they get to fully see you and understand you. Like I remember the first time when you came to my house and you said, wow, this is exactly what I envisioned your house to look like. And I, you know, but it is like important to invite people into your space. And Allison, that's such a good idea.
Well, it's
Thanks
really,
everybody for
yeah,
sharing
yeah, it's
all the
great.
information. I will make sure that if this will print at the end, and we'll make sure that we send this out to everybody as well, so that you get all the context.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if there's any other thoughts, and then if not, then we can just close up.
I do have one. I'm going to ask Megan.
Yeah.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what would be one piece of advice that you would give to an entrepreneur, whether they're starting or going, you know, on those days when you're struggling? What would be your one piece of advice that you would give them?
Oh, on the days that you're struggling. You know, honestly, the last 3 months in my slow season, I've actually really been struggling. I do better when
I
I'm
hear you.
busy, when I
Mm.
am hustling, and so kind of what I'm having to be doing, one is kind of sitting, writing all the thoughts, getting them out of my head, and then also going and like changing my scenery. Move out of the room you're in, go somewhere else, maybe move your body a little bit, whatever kind of yoga, exercise, jump up and down a few times, whatever it is. So yeah, just not staying in the stuck. So moving and yeah, just changing your scenery, writing. Those are kind of some of the things that I've been doing,
Oh,
and talking to other people. Yeah, talking to other people and knowing that, like, figuring out that those are the struggles that maybe their other artisans are having or whatever it is, and so you can lean into that. I lean into my pottery instructor, who I also work for her a little bit, often the last couple months, because I'm like, what is this artisan life? This, you know, and she's been doing it for 20 years, so I can lean into that. And yeah, so reach out to people and
Yeah.
change your story, I'd say.
I think, you know, Josie and I have had this conversation too a lot, is that the last 3 months have been very challenging in terms of just winter and not feeling all that creative. But when you connect with someone in person, it sure, and you just start generating ideas off of each other and with each other, you walk away feeling on fire again. And so just getting out of your house or inviting someone in and just with those people who are like-minded to help, you know, help fuel that passion. Um, because it just, for people, I think, who are prone to having lots of ideas, and so when they're eventually sitting kind of stagnant, they think that they're depressed, right? You get into a different funk because this isn't how you like to function. Um, but yeah, keeping those relationships going through the winter, especially, and just sharing ideas and having groups like this and conversations like this is great. So you feel alive. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I do
And-
have two things that I'm just looking at my notes that I made that
yeah.
I'd love to share.
Yeah, definitely.
One of them is when I was telling the one story about the two gals, different gals that have followed me through. One has been there coming to yoga. This is more of a yoga story for the last 8 years. Obviously, she buys stuff from me as well, but her father was in hospice this last fall, and she booked a class for her family. So I got to host. So I've built this relationship. I know her children, I know her husband, and I got to host a yoga class for them in this time of them going through that. And of course, she made me take the money, but I was, wanting to just give that to her. And then her best friend reached out to me after he passed and bought, I do a special class. It's called Yin Massage, where I do hands-on adjustment and gentle yoga postures. And they booked a private class with me. So it's like these vulnerable pieces that I get to be part of their life as well, which is a beautiful thing. And I just feel so grateful that I get to do that. But that's only because we've built those relationships over the years. So it was just one little story. I thought that, and if you're building those relationships to hone into them. And then the other thing, I think a few of you on here some names I know are newer to entrepreneurship, and I knew nothing 8 years ago. And leaning into all the different, well, especially I've been just soaking up all the community futures, the different the little courses that you guys have, like even SaaS Startup, I think, has some that I've gone to. Tomorrow, I let myself be in the Prince Albert and the Sage Hill Community Futures because I have a business in Prince Albert. I hope that's okay.
Oh, that's perfect. You're kind of in that spot because of
Yeah,
of our regions. Birch Hills
Yeah.
is kind of, it's sometimes you go to PA, sometimes you come this way. So that's
Well,
awesome that you're taking in
exactly.
both.
Yeah, the farm is, the Sage Hill
Yeah,
region, and then
region,
the
yep.
yoga studio, which I never really touched on, but I'm running it now with 4 other ladies. That's been the best thing. I don't have to answer emails anymore, but I get to do the back end work that I like to do, and I get to teach the yoga. And so that's been an awesome thing. So I do have the yoga studio in Prince Albert. And so tomorrow there's a lunch. I've been putting off going to it. So I'm going to leave my house tomorrow and go to this lunch at the Prince Albert Community Futures. We just chat, and I actually, doing this today, was like, Kate, you're going to go do that tomorrow. You're going to reach out to your community and meet some new people. It's time to keep going. So that, and then also just take any little bits of information of how to build your business at a time. You don't have to do it all at once. When you're ready to spend a little bit of money, I paid for branding and a website. And for me, because I'm not skilled in that area, that was a game changer, but it was a significant investment. And then I also did some coaching, and that helped me with my money story and all that stuff. So when you're ready, because I wasn't ready 8 years ago to pay for that, there are lots of stuff out there that you can start to dabble in as well. Yeah, those are the 2 things.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that's great. Absolutely.
That's been awesome. Thank you, Megan, for sharing. And I really think this has been important because relationships is something that we talk about in the community futures world all the time, is, finding somebody that you can share with or partner with, or even the little thing like liking somebody's post. I maybe can't buy their stuff, but if you can like their post or share their post, it goes so far. So, I think this has been great today. I'd like to thank I think I just did. Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah.
I caught my mic. I just like to thank everybody for joining us. Thanks, Megan, for joining us, and Jessica for organizing. This has been great. And we'll make sure we did record today, but we're also going to make sure that everybody gets all the contact information so that you can share and like and check everybody's websites out and Facebook pages out.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you,
much.
everybody. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
I can't stop the recording.
I can.
Okay, perfect.